Welcome to the MLB Slate Breakdown. I'm Jason Gilbo. With me is Brent Hyden, taking a look at a rather large Monday slate. And hopefully, well, not hopefully, this one is a lot drier than yesterday.
Yeah, definitely a lot better as far as rain goes. Still a very windy day across the majors. So that's going to put a damper on things. But hopefully, none of these games will just be postponed like yesterday.
Yeah, that was brutal. You were on cheat sheet duty, which that was just a whole thing altogether. But having six rained out games, man, like, I'm sorry. I do. I just want to apologize in front of all the people out there.
Yeah, having like half the slate postponed after you put in the effort is very tilting.
Yeah. Tonight, like you said, wind is really the only thing here. Lots of games blowing out. A pretty fun slate. You have to Grom on the slate, and then kind of a lot of middle range guys with some upside.
Yeah, pitching is a little weird, and I have a feeling that the best lineup on the night is probably going to have like 4K left over because as much as I love Degrom as a talent and it is a decent spot for him, you're still probably not terribly comfortable in paying up for him if Washington rolls out their regular lineup.
Yeah. First game here, let's take a look at Pittsburgh and Colorado. You got German Marquez versus Stephen Brault. Not a game I'm terribly excited about. I think it's kind of some one-off territory. Obviously, you got this Colorado lineup. They will be missing Nolan Arenado, who's suspended. But everyone else here, you can then look at some of the righties.
Yeah, one quick thing on this game. There is a little bit of concern that there's going to be some off and on snow in this one.
I just said no weather. Come on.
I'm just throwing it out there. It's going to be really cold though, temps in the 30s, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. But it is an interesting spot for hitters on both sides of this game. Colorado without Nolan Arenado does kind of put a damper on things, but Stephen Brault is a guy that has really struggled against right-handed hitters this season. 53% hard contact, 372 WOBA allowed. That's going to put like the DJ LeMahieu's, Trevor Stories, Ionetta's, these guys in firm play territory for me. I think those would be the three that I would target against him.
Yeah, me too. I think when you look at it, I don't expect a ton of ownership on maybe guys maybe outside of LeMahieu, just maybe a little recency bias from the last time LeMahieu faced a lefty. But overall, yeah, I'm with you. I think Ionetta is interesting. As you said, Story is always a solid GPP bet. Superb power against left-handed pitching. Desmond, I'm a little bit off of, even though he's another right-handed bat. I'll probably go some other directions.
Yeah, same here. And I don't even mind Charlie Blackmon in the spot. Obviously, we know he's very good against lefties as well. So if you want to roll out a Rocky stack, you can. Obviously, with the wind blowing out in that stadium, it's going to really help because that is an extreme pitcher's park. But 16 to 20-mile-an-hour winds blowing out could help get that ball out of there.
Yep. Pirate side of things, Marquez, guy who's been worse off against right-handed pitching or right-handed hitters more than lefties. 362 WOBA dating back to last year, allowed 37% hard contact rate. I still don't mind the lefties here, though. It's not like he was great against them. 320 WOBA allowed. Is a guy who can keep the ball in the park. I think that's my one downside to these Pirates bats. But guys like Polanco and Bell and Dickerson are all interesting, and even Starling Marte as well.
Yeah, I love the Pirates. They're another team that I pretty much stack on a daily basis, and it pretty much pays off every single time. Josh Harrison left yesterday's game with a hand injury, so we'll have to keep an eye on that one. If he gets in the lineup, he's a solid option. But Colin Moran, Starling Marte, Corey Dickerson, Cervelli is an excellent catcher option. I really do like him in the spot, but even someone like Polanco is a solid option. I think I'm leaning towards more like Marte and Moran as some one-off options, I think.
Yeah, Dickerson's super cheap at 3,900. It's interesting too.
Yeah, he's been hitting the ball a little bit better recently.
Yeah, and I like the Moran call. This guy who's hitting 6th or 7th usually on a nightly basis and has huge upside.
Yeah, he has a decent amount of power, and he's not a guy that he doesn't generally come out and just give you nothing. Like he's at least getting on base most of these games, so you're at least getting something out of him.
Yep. Anyone else from this one?
If someone like Sean Rodriguez or Adam Frazier gets in the lineup because Harrison is out, you can consider those guys. I don't necessarily mind Adam Frazier as a cheap bet.
St. Louis, Chicago next here. Adam Wainwright taking on Tyler Chatwood. It looks like Wynn's a little bit more sideways than actually out, but I wonder if that could change a little bit here. Needless to say, I like this game here in Wrigley. I'm a big fan of really both offenses.
Yeah, should I rain on your parade just a little bit?
Is it? Yeah, go for it.
Some light snow could fall during game time, and it's going to be really, really, really cold. Like temperatures like in the 30s, but feels like in the 20s.
So I mean, I guess we'll have to talk about basically because of what happened in Kansas City yesterday. We need to. I take back my intro. It's not you got to keep out for these cold weather games. Which I come on, these guys are wearing sweatshirts under their jerseys. Like Manny Machado looked like a ninja yesterday. Like he could only see out of like a little thing because of what he was wearing. Come on, guys.
I think they do it more for the fans, honestly. So
Yeah.
like, because they can just postpone this game, tack it onto a series later on in the warmer weather, and they make money that way. So we'll have to keep an eye on it if they play. I don't necessarily want anything to do with Adam Wainwright or Tyler Chatwood in the spots against these two offenses. Like I know the Cubs have been pretty bad at times, but they've also erupted for a lot of runs over the weekend. So what was it like? The wind was blowing in like 30 miles an hour, and they're out here putting up like 10 runs against the Braves. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was like 8-9 runs in like the bottom of the eighth. I like the bats here. Real no interest in these pitchers. Chatwood was a guy I was high on, hasn't shown a lot coming into the year. Wainwright's a guy who's wrong side of 30. He's obviously a guy who's just trying to kind of get through games at this point. It's weird. It wouldn't surprise me to see Wainwright kind of tilt everyone that stacks Cubs just because he can be that guy at times. But this is a guy last 2 years has been god awful away from Busch Stadium. And that's what I'm kind of looking at here, especially with the lefties. Getting Rizzo back in the lineup is huge. Like I like Ian Happ, obviously huge strikeout potential, but home run potential is there. With Rizzo back, I think Schwarber is interesting too. If you're looking for a GPP power play, like there's quite a few bats in this Cubs lineup that I'm really looking to attack.
Yeah, if you're playing on FanDuel, you take your free square with Anthony Rizzo, who is minimum salary $2K. I don't know how long the tag is going to stay on his name that says DL back, but if that's on there most of the day and people don't realize it, you could actually get him at pretty low ownership, which would be crazy. You obviously love that spot for him, but I like him on DraftKings too. You mentioned Happ, who's an excellent option. I love Chris Bryant in the spot as well. He does have a decent amount of power against right-handed pitching, 248 ISO dating back to last season, low strikeout rates, decent on-base potential, and on a slate where you don't need where you can easily pay up for these guys, I do like the spot for them. Even Wilson Contreras, Zobrist, Hayward, anybody in that lineup's in play for me.
Yeah, I'm with you. Cardinal side of things here. It's kind of the usual suspects. I think Jose Martinez was the only day-to-day guy here. But I have some interest in Tommy Pham, Dexter Fowler. Matt Carpenter's been entirely frustrating the roster for the last year and a half. But maybe it's just me whenever I roster him, but I don't mind him here in this spot as well.
Yeah, I love the Cardinals in this spot. I think everyone's going to kind of look at the Cubs side of this game, and you're going to get the Cardinals at lower ownership. If we're looking at Chatwood this season alone, he's been really, really bad against right-handed hitters, 412 WOBA allowed, 1.8 home runs per 9. If that's going to continue, that means guys like Tommy Pham, Marcell Ozuna, Jose Martinez, Paul DeJong, these guys are going to be excellent options. Even Yadier Molina, who might be one of my favorite catcher options on the slate. But I absolutely love Tommy Pham, who has been outstanding of late. He had a down game against the Reds yesterday, but if you just look at his game log, 4 straight games over in double-digit fantasy points. He went off on Saturday against the Reds. Excellent spot for him. And again, I mentioned Ozuna, Martinez, DeJong, those righties I love.
Yeah, a good power opportunity for those guys. No interest in either pitcher to say again.
Yeah, no.
So, moving on next game here, Kansas City and Toronto. this is a game that I think could obviously be sneaky on this Toronto side here for some bats. A lot of value. I know a lot of people are probably going to gripe, oh, there's no Donaldson in the lineup, but there's a handful of right-handed bats that are very cheap and have a lot of power.
Happy Steve Pearce Day.
Yep. Who's another cheap guy who is not going to probably get that bump.
Yeah, excellent spot, I think, for Steve Pearce, especially if he leads off. I don't know if he's projected in the leadoff spot. He is. So it's going to be – you're going to have like a murderer's row of righties against Coughlin. Like right now the projected lineup is righty, Justin Spoke switch hitter, Solarte switch hitter, Martin, PR, Diaz, Grichuk, Travis, all right-handed hitters. So good luck today, Eric Skoglund. You're gonna get shelled. I love the Blue Jays in the spots. I think Justin Smoke, Steve Pearce are going to be popular options, but I don't mind going with the other guys like the Grichuks, Teoscar Hernandez, who should be in the lineup. He's an excellent power hitter that is very, very cheap across the industry. I love that spot for him. Even like Aledmus Diaz down towards the bottom of that lineup, another power bat that you can get in your lineup. But Steve Pearce, number one for me, and then the rest of the guys, I think you can just get exposure anywhere you want.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's kind of tough because like I also love Kevin PR there, over 200 ice. So like there's a handful of these guys. There's going to be a lot of value on this slate, and a lot of guys I'm kind of going back and forth, I think, as the day goes on. But yeah, this lineup, like as you mentioned, Grichuk's interesting value there. He's got some power. I think Pierce, and like you said, these are the chalkier options. Smoke is a tough guy that I'm having trouble getting away from tonight.
Yeah, he's a guy that I will be trying to get in my lineups. The problem is there's another first baseman that we're going to talk about from another game that I like even more than Smoke. So it's going to be tough. I don't know if I'm going to end up on Smoke, but I do love this spot for him against Skoglund, who is just downright terrible.
Yeah. Kansas City side of things here, don't like a ton of these options. This team is just not great against left-handed pitching. As a team dating back to last year, under a 290 WOBA, 140 ISO for this projected lineup. That is not good.
No, and they're striking out like 27% of the time so far this season. You get guys like Paulo Orlando, Whit Merrifield in there that like – while they're decent bats, they're really, really struggling. And Jaime Garcia is actually a value option that I'm actually looking at as far as pitchers go. He made it in my pitching article. If he's going to continue what he's done to start the season, and that is striking batters out at a really solid clip, 26.7% so far over his first two games, that's a stark difference from what he was doing last season, where he posted a 19% strikeout rate. He's lowered his ground ball rate, and you and I were kind of digging into his pitch mix a little bit, and he's changed the way he's approaching batters. So I don't know that Vegas and people maybe have caught on to the fact that he's more of a strikeout pitcher now, and I think he has a ton of upside in this matchup against the Royals.
Yeah, I do too. Obviously love him on two pitcher sites, but I even think like a site like FanDuel where he's also cheap, you can roll him out and feel pretty comfortable with it. Obviously, huge spot for a win for the most part. Royals offense that just really doesn't. Whit Merrifield is probably the only bat that I'd maybe even consider. I'm not even consider looking, but would consider using. Everyone else is just they're awful.
Yeah, and if you look, like he's throwing a two-seam fastball about 30% of the time. There's four players in the Royals lineup that have an xWOBA over 300 against two-seam fastballs. It's Moustakas, Cuthbert, Orlando, and Butera. Like, you only have four guys that have expected WOBAs over 300. That's really, really bad. Really bad.
Yeah. You just got to watch out for Alcides Escobar. That's about it.
Yeah, right?
Oh, man. No Royals bats, I'm assuming, here for you.
No, not for me.
Washington and New York. Jeremy Hellickson taking on Jacob deGrom. Let's start talking about Jacob deGrom real quick. Obviously, as far as like name value, he's the name value guy in the slate. I don't love him here, more just for the price point play. Like I know Washington's obviously got some bats in there. Their offense has been a little hit or miss this year. Pretty average strikeout rate. Like I wouldn't be surprised to see deGrom have a good start. Obviously bouncing back after that Marlins start that wasn't that great. Pretty good spot here for a win as well, but just wind blowing out. It just depends what this Nationals lineup looks like. Goodwin's banged up, Rendon's banged up. Taking some of those bats out, you could get a pretty watered down lineup where you could just work Harper on and then go from there.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see. Harper has not had a day off in quite a long time. It's been basically a week, so it may be we could just randomly get like a Bryce Harper like off day mixed in too. And I have to correct you, it's not Hellickson, it's Shellickson.
Thank you.
I don't hate the spot for DeGrom. Like, he made it in my pitching article because there's basically nowhere else to go.
You could say he replaced someone.
He replaced the guy that was originally listed as probable for this game. There is strikeout potential in this matchup, obviously, because you're going to get some of the low strikeout bats like Rendon out of that lineup. There's a potential for Bryce Harper, like I said, could end up resting at some point soon, him being out of lineup, and you're going to get like high strikeout guys like Matt Adams and Moises Sierra and Ryan Zimmerman, who just apparently can't hit this season in that lineup. So there's strikeout potential. It's a lineup that he's been successful against in his career if he just gets around Harper. So by default, I think you at least have to consider him today as a decent cash game option.
Yeah, I do too. And, we've already, talked about a good amount of value. Like, you're obviously going to have no issue fitting him in and still getting some bats that you want. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, it kind of depends on the lineup. If we get some of those guys out, I'll be much higher on DeGrom, even at the price tag, just because I'll have some salary left over to probably pony up and pay up for him. But if not, like, I have no problem going with a couple guys that we'll talk about in a little bit. As far as Washington bats go, like, Harper would be the only guy that maybe take a one-off on, just because he has that immense power even against DeGrom, and his ownership should be a little bit lower given the matchup.
Yeah, Harper's fine. I don't mind taking someone like Trey Turner, especially if Lobaton gets in the lineup behind the dish, because he's terrible when it comes to throwing guys out. So you could look at Trey Turner for some stolen base upside, and Harper has stolen base upside too.
Yep. That side of things here, Shellickson, this is a guy who was awful last year. It's been awful for a little while now. Was getting in game shape and is now making a start for Washington. Was awful against basically both sides of the plate, but obviously love the lefties here in this spot against Hellickson. Fly ball pitcher. You got the wind blowing out. This game is a little bit warmer than some of the other games that we've mentioned. It's only 55 degrees, but that's better than 28 or 32.
Yeah, I can't recall a year when Shellickson was actually any good, and it's kind of weird to see that he was like the rookie of the AL rookie of the year in 2011. Like, I don't know if it was just a really bad season that year. I can't remember that far back. That was like 7 years ago. Like, I can't remember that far back, but he's bad, and he gives up a lot. At 340 last season, 340 WOBA to lefties, 336 to righties. Guy's just terrible, has no strikeout potential. I just load up on the Mets here. Everybody in that lineup's in play. I would like, if I could get points for hitting from Jacob deGrom, I would be using him as a hitter in my lineup if I could, because like he has the chance to freaking go yard against Hellickson in this spot. Like, everybody 1 through 8 is in play. I hope Brandon Nimmo gets in the lineup over like Jay Bruce, because I actually really like the spot for him, but Conforto, Asdrubal, Cespedes, Frazier, lock and load with all these guys.
So just went back to 2011 real quick. 4.77 Sierra. You want to know what his ERA was?
What?
2.95. 82% left on base percentage. 223 BABIP. Strikeout stuff below 6 K for 9. Like, he was pretty bad for having a good season.
For being AL Rookie of the Year in 2011, those are some pretty bad numbers.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to go back after the pod and look and see who else was in that race, because they should be probably out of the league by now.
Probably.
But yeah, totally in agreement here with the Mets. I love those bats. Yeah, like you said, 1 through 9, very playable. Conforto, probably my favorite here. I don't mind Jay Bruce or Nemo, whoever's in the lineup, and then Asdrubal Cabrera keeps kind of being a plug and play for me at these prices.
Yeah, for sure. And AL Rookie of the Year voting in 2011, Hellickson won. with 73% of the votes. Trumbo was second. Hosmer was third. Ivan Nova fourth. Pineda fifth. Dustin Ackley, Desmond Jennings, and Jordan Walden rounding it out.
Oh, Dustin Ackley.
But like he beat out Trumbo and Hosmer and Pinata.
And look at Hosmer now. Just chilling in San Diego. 170 mil. Nice.
Dropping infield fly balls.
Texas, Tampa here next. Martin Perez versus Blake Snell. Like Blake Snell here in the spot against Texas. This is still not a good offense at all. I don't think they're ever going to be this year.
No, probably not.
Like I thought maybe at some point they'd come around or maybe they'd have the home road splits like last year. But obviously losing Andrus hurts. That's a solid contact bat in the middle of the order. Who they're throwing in, Gallo is either a homer or like a 150-mile-per-hour single. It seems like there's no either or a strikeout. Like Snell should be able to get through here. And I'm not – the only thing you got to worry about is obviously control. But I like the matchup here. I like the price. Given the fact he's home as a huge favorite, I'm really cool with using Snell tonight as like an SP2.
You mean you're not worried about Isaiah Kiner Falefa down at the bottom of that order?
No, or Carlos Tochi or Ryan Rua.
Yeah. Snell made it in the pitching article. No shocker there. I do love Snell in this spot. He's doing a great job. Like he has strikeout stuff, 27.4% this season. His contact numbers are outstanding though. 68.3% contact this season, 1.2 whip. ERA 3.6. Like he did struggle. Was it against the Red Sox, obviously, and the Yankees, obviously, but like against the White Sox, bounce back with 10 strikeouts. This is another really high strikeout game, I think, for Snell in the spot. And like he does have some struggles against righties a little bit, but in this park and against like guys like. The only righty you really have to worry about is Adrian Beltre at this point. So like you get around Beltre, and like there's no one else to worry about in this lineup.
No, there's really not. I will add in Chirinos. Solid bat against left-handers. That'd be the other one. And obviously, you can't hang a pitch to Gallo because he will crush it 500 feet. But yeah, I'm with you. Like he's going to see 4 lefties here, including Gallo. Like all those guys have incredibly high strikeouts rates. You mentioned the back half of the lineup. Like the names that are back there, I don't even know who they are anymore. Like it's horrible.
Yeah, it's really bad. So I think Snell is probably one of the top arms on the slate, and he's extremely underpriced across the industry for the upside he has in the spot.
I agree, and I don't even like the Texas one-offs to be contrarian. They're just at positions I'd rather go elsewhere at.
Yeah.
So Tampa here, taking on Martin Perez. A couple of these right-handers I definitely have some interest in. You're going to get them at very cheap prices. It's maybe a weird day when you say you like the Rays offense.
You know, I sent out that tweet yesterday joking that like the Rays offense yesterday was going to be like the top stack on the slate because all the other games are postponed. And then like shortly after, Denard Span leads off the game with a home run. I was like, oh crap, it's coming true. And they actually ended up having a really solid outing. I love the Rays in the spot against Martin Perez, who has lowered his contact rate from 100% to 94% after 2 games. So he's improving. And he has a whopping 6.4% strikeout rate this season. Oh boy. I don't know that people are going to look at the Rays here, even though they should, because like they're really cheap and you don't need the value. But I love everyone in this lineup. I love CJ Cron. He's the first baseman that it's going to be between him and Justin Smoke. And it's a dark day when you're trying to decide between CJ Cron and Justin Smoke. But I love Cron in the spot. 255 ISO dating back to last season against lefties. His 31.2 strikeout percent should be mitigated by Perez's 6% strikeout rate. So I'm not worried there. Even guys like Malik Smith is decent against lefties, Daniel Robertson, Danny Echeverria, Carlos Gomez, Wilson Ramos. All these guys are in play against Perez.
Yeah, they really are. Robertson, middle infield guy. He's under 3K on DraftKings. Going back to last year, 40% hard contact rate against lefties. Uh, yes, he will strike out quite a bit. That's the downside, but I kind of tend to overlook that when guys are that cheap, especially as you mentioned, a guy against Perez who is not striking guys out. Crone, love it. Obviously, over 200 ISO against lefties going back to last year. Usually, Carlos Gomez, I like to target against righties more than I do lefties, but he's an interesting guy hitting third or projected to hit third. There is some upside there. And still, dating back to last year, 171 ISO isn't terrible.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, you can even mix in some of the other guys, Malik Smith, who doesn't have any power against lefties, but 333 on base percentage dating back to last season. He gets on base and he's kind of like Billy Hamilton. He gets on base once and he's on third after 2 pitches because he has that stolen base upside. So all these guys are in play.
Yep. Philly Atlanta next year. Aaron Nola taking Julio Teheran. We've done this dance before. I like the Phillies bats here. They didn't really, perform well in the first meeting against these guys. It was the same situation in Atlanta against Teheran, but I'm willing to go back to the well here. I'm willing to use Carlos Santana and then immediately see barrel or outs after. That happened again yesterday. I like these bats. I'm not worried about Teheran's last performance. He's still peripheral stuff are just not good.
Yeah, and you have another game where it's extremely windy and like 16 to 20 mile an hour winds blowing out. And it's not cold. It's not like freezing cold. It's like 50s, low 50s, high 40s in this spot. And against Teheran, who still struggles against lefties, still giving up a lot of hard contact actually to both sides of the plate, even to righties, 484 WOBA so far this season. That's terrible. 225 or 2.25 homers per 9, 3 homers per 9 to lefties. Rhys Hoskins, Carlos Santana, Cesar Hernandez, Scott Kingery, anybody in this lineup, I would take me against Teheran at this point. It's a pretty good bet that I would get on base, and I haven't played baseball in like 20 years.
Yeah, and the thing too is like with Kurt Suzuki behind the dish, obviously not a guy who's throwing out a lot of runners. Phillies are running a ton. That helps obviously for guys like Cesar Hernandez. Wouldn't be surprised to see Odubel Herrera get a couple stolen base attempts, here sometime soon, but these guys are going to be, running. There's obviously power. Nick Williams is a power lefty bat below 3K on DraftKings. I don't mind taking a shot on him. He should slip into the lineup. This was the last time Herrera didn't get into the lineup, right?
Yeah, it was opening day.
Yeah, the same situation. He's projected in the lineup, but I would be curious if that's the case again here.
Yeah, because wasn't it out there that got in the lineup over him?
Yeah.
Yeah, even Alther's in play because he has a decent amount of power against right-handed pitching, 215 ISO dating back to last season.
Yeah, and Teheran's been 336 WOBA, same time span, 1.51 home runs per 9. Obviously, can use Rhys Hoskins here.
I've heard he's pretty good at baseball. Like I don't have any like evidence to back that up. It's all anecdotal evidence at this point, but I've heard he's good.
It's nickname evidence, and you got some Rhys Lightning stuff like that. You can't be bad and have the name Rhys Lightning.
No, you really can't. That's a solid nickname. It's better than Playoff P, that's for sure.
Brave side of things here. I don't mind taking some of the lefties to be contrarian. Like Albies and Freeman, I think, are probably the more interesting too. Maybe a one-off Preston Tucker who's got some power. He's also below 3K on DraftKings. Obviously, Vegas isn't going to be high on Atlanta. A lot of people are going to be probably more higher on Nola, so they're not taking Atlanta bats. So I think some interesting one-offs here for Atlanta's a good contrarian move.
Yeah, Tucker's a guy that I do have a lot of interest in the spot. Power bat below 3K, it's just insane. Free money Freeman, you can roll him out if they're going to actually pitch to him. He could do some damage in this spot. If not, you do have, power bat Nick Markakis behind him to knock him in whenever he gets on base. I can't. I'm sorry. But typically Tucker does bat behind Markakis. So when Markakis, singles to like left field, you have Tucker who can knock both those guys in.
Yeah, the 88 mile per hour off the bat single for Markakis.
Exactly.
They desperately need a right-handed power bat behind Freeman.
They do, but like what they're doing is working for them. So they're fourth in the majors against right-handed pitching this season so far. They're not striking out, a little bit of power, but what they're doing is working. So I'm not going to question it.
Yeah. Oh, it's because he got superstar Ozzy Albies there.
That's for sure. And Dansby Swanson, who has actually been hitting the ball really freaking well this season.
Yeah, as um, I don't have any real interest in Nola. I just feel like he's kind of overpriced. I think there's some cheaper guys that one we've already talked about Garcia. There's a couple other ones that I don't mind. I think Nola's just too expensive for a matchup that, yes, he does have strikeout stuff, but Atlanta just isn't a strikeout team.
Yeah, they're really not, and I'm not going to buy into like what Scherzer and Strasburg did to them. Like they're not a team that strikes out a ton. Nola, I just don't feel like has a lot of upside in the spot, and I think he's going to be a popular option because there's so much salary left over after looking at some of these value bats that I think, especially in tournaments, using a Braves stack against him is a very very good like pivot option.
Yep. Cincinnati, Milwaukee next game here. You got Brent Suter taking on Luis Castillo. It's in Milwaukee. They'll have that roof closed because I think there is actually more so snow there in Milwaukee than anywhere else. This Milwaukee lineup could actually be kind of bad tonight if like Braun or Thames don't find themselves in the lineup. You could end up getting like, I don't know, guys like Hernan Perez. I don't even know who else would get in there. Maybe like Aguilar, I guess. But it kind of depends like how this Milwaukee lineup shakes out to how I use them.
Yeah, like I really want to like Luis Castillo. He just hasn't shown the upside, like the strikeout potential. And you were kind of talking about like he's getting ahead like 0-2 on batters and still just trying to like pipe a fastball down the middle and get guys out. And if he's not trying to use his secondary pitches to put away hitters, like I just don't think he has strikeout upside in the spot. And lefties continue to give him problems, and like they don't have a lot of lefties left with Yelich on the DL and Thames questionable, but like you do have Shaw and VR and whoever else they can get in that lineup. If these guys miss, there could be some problems for Castillo in this spot.
Yeah, there could. He's just not. I mean, he's basically been, a three pitch guy. Like, we'll work in a little bit of a sinker fastball every now and then, but he's mostly change up fastball at this point, and he will throw the slider every now and then. And I don't know why he doesn't throw the slider more. I think on two strike situations, Wobo 116, ISO was 0.20. Like he didn't generate a huge whiff rate, but 76% ground ball rate. He needs to go to some of these secondary pitches a little bit more. It's just not the case. He's still a fastball guy about 60% of the time, and his velocity is down this year a little bit, averaging 95, 97 last year. I think that might be a little concerning. It might be health issues too.
It very well could, and it could just be like he just doesn't trust the pitches. And if that's the case, then I definitely don't have any interest in him. And one guy to keep an eye on, like Eric Sogard, like nerd power is not extremely scary, but he's another lefty they could throw in that lineup, and that could cause some problems.
Yeah, and I like the lefties here. I like VR. If Thames is in the lineup, I like him. I like Shaw. Obviously, good ballpark. Lorenzo Cain's interesting, even though he's on the right side. It's just going to kind of be what this lineup shakes out. Good spot here, though. I don't mind stacking Milwaukee if everything kind of lines up correctly.
Yeah, I wonder if they bring up like G-Man Choi or one of these other lefties from the minors to just load up lefties on him. Like it's something they very well could do, and that would definitely put these guys in play.
Yeah, is Brett Phillips in the line or in the major leagues, or is he back down in AAA?
He is down in AAA. He was optioned on the 11th, so.
Okay. Yeah, he was the only other lefty I could think of. You dug deep there with Choi.
G-Man, you didn't know about Choi?
I didn't know he was even in Milwaukee.
Yeah, he is. He had like one game against. He's had like one game in the majors for him this season.
Yeah, I think I'm off Castillo until I see something from him. Don't mind the Milwaukee bats. Cincinnati here. Adam Duvall, like, is kind of it. I don't really like a ton of these other options. Like Billy Hamilton, probably going to be leaning off here. Peraza is like awful. Just this team, man, right now is bad.
You mean Phil Gosselin doesn't pique your interest at all?
He does have. He's third in ISO dating back to last year. Oh wait, no, never mind. I'm looking at the wrong guy. Never mind. No, this team's bad.
Yeah, I obviously any team like Joey Votto always in play. still not hitting the ball that well this season. But he is a guy dating back to last year, 240 ISO, 16% strikeout rate, 399 WOBA. You can roll him out. Phillip Ervin, Adam Duvall, as you mentioned, Scooter. Some of these guys have potential, but like no one really piques my interest, even against Suter, who is a very bad pitcher.
Yeah, it's pretty much just Duvall, and that's kind of it. Just because, like, obviously, huge power against lefties. I mean, dating back to last year, 306 ISO, 387 WOBA. Strikeout rate still 22%. That's down from what he is against righties. Obviously, you look at Suter, he's not a strikeout guy anyway. Yeah, Duvall's about it.
Hey, and Phil Gosselin does have like a 200 ISO against left-handed pitching dating back to last season, so there is that.
I don't even. Yeah, he's not even projecting the lineup. It's Irvin and Mesoraco and Blandino.
Dean Blandino. He went from being a ref to a baseball player.
Alex.
Yeah. Must be a son.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's about it here.
Yeah, this game is kind of gross. Like you should have more interest with these two pitchers, and especially in this park. But like, I don't.
No. Chicago White Sox in Oakland next year. You got Daniel Mangden taking on Reynaldo Lopez. Reynaldo Lopez, guy, the velocity tick upwards at the beginning of the year was something that caught my eye. That's put me on the first couple starts of the season. He's been excellent. He's been underpriced. Gets an A's team that strikes out a ton. Big ballpark there. I love Lopez here in this spot.
The biggest concern is the wind in that game, also blowing out like 17 to 20 miles per hour. Lopez is a guy who made it in my pitching article. He's been a guy that I've been high on since the first game against the Blue Jays, and he came out and had a solid outing, 6 strikeouts and 6 innings. He's given up a couple runs over the last 2. Walks were an issue against the Tigers. But if he can reel that in, he has a decent arsenal that he started to really, really trust. And going against this A's team who does have some power against right-handed pitching, and they're like, when I pulled this yesterday, they were the 3rd best team against right-handed pitching in the majors, but they also still strike out like 22% of the time. They disappear at the plate from time to time. I like them. I like Lopez in this spot as a very high upside option. And Vegas, man, Vegas is all over the A's. Vegas is really low on Lopez. I don't know. I think Vegas has got this one wrong.
Yeah, I do too. And, we've said that a few times this year already. I think that's the case again tonight because, yeah, I mean, A's, one of the higher projected run totals on the slate. Yes, obviously they are a team who, a couple swings of the bats, they can't put up 7-8 runs with the long ball. Like, that's how they're built. But, yeah, there's just a lot of strikeouts here for Lopez. Is a guy, his fastball's really solid, even though he's throwing it quite a bit. Like, 299 WOBA allowed going back to last year, 126 ISO. Pretty insane for a fastball.
Yeah, and when you're able to pipe in a pitch like at 100 miles per hour, like you can't hit those.
No, it's tough. If you're not rolling Lopez, like Matt Olson, Chris Davis, big power bats, I'm okay with one-offs, but it's kind of it. Matt
Chapman.
Yeah, Chapman's not fire.
That'd be pretty much it.
Yeah. Chicago side of things here, it's weird. Like, Langdon's a guy who like doesn't show like he allows a ton of production. Looking at some of the stuff, someone also posted this too, is the fact that first time through the lineup, he's very solid. Everything after that, awful.
Yeah, the mustache power wears off after the first time through the lineup. And if you look like, again, it's a small sample. He's only tossed 16 innings this season, but righties have just demolished him this season. He's allowing a 431 WOBA, 43% hard contact. Hasn't given up a home run to a righty yet, but walking him in a decent clip. That's a little concerning when they're hitting the ball that hard against him. You have some of these guys in this White Sox lineup who do strike out a lot, but they also have a decent amount of power. I mean, anytime you have like Jose Abreu in there, Matt Davidson in there, that's kind of concerning when you have a pitcher giving up that much hard contact. I will say, like I mentioned with Lopez, Vegas is really high on Mangden. You can roll him out in tournaments if you want to. There is a little bit of strikeout potential against this team, but I think I'd rather hedge against Vegas and everyone else and maybe roll out a stack of White Sox.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I don't even feel like you need Mangden. Like, you don't need him on this slate with all the value bats.
No, you really don't.
So, our Chicago bats are definitely interesting. Like you said, you're going to go against the grain here. I think a lot of people are going to be similar thinking where it's just like, I like so many other guys over Abreu. I like so many other guys over Davidson that they're going to be single digit ownership here tonight.
Yeah, I think they will too.
So, yeah, like I also like Yohan Moncada, 3,400 on DK leading off.
Yeah, Mankado's interesting, and Tim Anderson, who's still batting like way down in the order, but hitting the ball really well. I mean, almost 92 mile an hour average exit velocity this season. So he's hitting the ball pretty hard. All these guys, I think, are in play. You mentioned Mancada. His StatCast number is 97.4 average exit velocity, average distance of 212 feet so far this season, 201 ISO against right-handed pitching. Does strike out a ton, but he has a lot of power as well.
Yeah. And White Sox will run. Tim Anderson's been running a ton, and Luke Roy not the best at throwing out runners.
Yeah, exactly.
So, moving on here, we got LA and San Diego. Hyunjin Ryu versus Robbie Erlin, two lefties. God, I don't like Ryu. I just don't. And he pissed me off where he was pitching against. I think it was Oakland, and had like 9 strikeouts, and I stacked against him, and then Alex Wood. I pitched him the next night and gives up like 8 earned, but there is upside obviously for Ryu. I'm just still not going there.
I'm not either. I don't see a reason to go there. Like, this Padres team does strike out a decent amount against lefties, 22% this season, but they are also a team with a lot of power against lefties. A 203 ISO this season, 118 WRC plus. They're hitting the ball pretty hard. Like, as a team against lefties this season, 35% hard contact. And one quick note on Alex Wood, I will give him the benefit of the doubt. He was still apparently battling food poisoning whenever he took the mound against the A's in that game. So,
was Rodney Hood in LA or something?
Probably.
San Diego bats, I think you can get some interesting one-offs here. It is the outfield guys like Renfroe and Perella for me here. Villanueva, obviously, in a very small sample size, has continued to show ridiculous power against lefties. So I think those are the 3 that I do have some interest in. And if you still want to roll Galvis, like now that he's hitting up in the lineup, I don't hate it.
I still like Galvis just because he continues to be a guy that puts up at least some sort of numbers. Like, none of them are like mind blowing. Like, oh my God, he had a huge game, but he's still just getting you points and he's dirt cheap, doesn't strike out hardly at all. Villanueva, as you mentioned, now he's up to 29 plate appearances, 593 ISO against lefties. 3 straight games. He's had double-digit fantasy points. Back-to-back home runs, excellent spot for him. Renfroe, a lefty masher. Jose Perella, lefty masher. You can even dip down and get some of these other guys that might be in the lineup. Matt Caesar, Austin Hedges, anybody in this lineup. I think the Padres are a very, very good, like, sneaky tournament stack.
Yeah, I do too. And on the other side, with another lefty here, you get some of those guys that are being in the lineup, like, Austin Barnes, Kike Hernandez. I don't necessarily like the Dodgers bats. I just never seem to get the ownership that I want on them for a lower price. I think Matt Kemp is interesting, though, just from a power perspective. Obviously, his numbers look a lot lower against lefties than what they probably should be. Still hitting the ball extremely hard. He'd probably be about it.
I don't mind Bellinger, somebody who definitely should go overlooked in this spot because he's in the same price range as Smoke. Lefty on lefty matchup definitely would go overlooked there, but he's hitting the ball pretty well, and he's kind of bounced back from a slow start to the season, so I don't mind him. Barnes, Kike Hernandez, you mentioned, all fine options. Like, I don't hate the Dodgers. I don't know. I never seem to be able to get them right.
It's because they haven't been right a lot this year.
That's true.
So, yeah. And like Corey Seager hits lefties well. Like, those lefties do have good splits against left-handers.
Yeah, they do.
So, last game at night here, Houston-Seattle, James Paxton take on Dallas Keuchel. A couple of above-average lefties here who haven't gotten things quite straightened out yet in 2018.
Paxton looked a lot better in his last start against the Royals. Still gave up a couple of earned runs, but struck out 10. Started to look a little bit better against the Twins as well. Struck out 7. Still gave up a couple earned runs. He's a guy I'm pretty high on in this matchup. I think people are going to shy away from him because he's going up against the Astros, who are obviously one of the top teams in baseball. But like they do have a very high strikeout percentage against lefties. I mean, 24.5% so far this season. I mean, we saw Bartolo Colon carry like a perfect game into the 8th inning last night against them, and like this is a team like I have been taking pitchers at a fairly high rate against them and have had some success because they are still striking out a decent amount, and they're just not the Astros that were just beating everyone's brains in like they were last year. So I like him in the spot. Paxton has been solid against them dating back to last season, 2-1, 169 ERA and 4 starts against them. They kind of struggle against his pitch mix, and he's throwing that like knuckle curve and that cut fastball, and that both those really baffle hitters. And I think this is a spot where you're going to get really low ownership on Paxton, who has a potential to put up a really solid outing.
Yeah, I definitely think there's some upside here. Houston's offense really hasn't clicked yet to start the year. Obviously, he is going to face a heavily right-handed lineup. I still think there's enough risk where GPP only for me. You're in the same boat.
Yeah. That being said, like against righties this season, again, we're talking small sample, 15.2 innings, 287 will allow 36% hard contact, 56% fly ball rate. That is a little concerning. Obviously, this park is a decent pitcher's park. Like I think later in the season is when it starts to become more of a hitter's environment. Um, so like he's better against righties, 31% strikeout rate. So I think he can. I think he can get around it. I think he can put up a good game.
Yeah, I do too. I will say if I am taking anyone against him, Alex Bregman stands out for me.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
was kind of the only one like who kind of matched up well with what Paxton throws.
yeah. And if he's the only one that you necessarily have to worry about, like I think you can. I think you can be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, outside of that, like I'm just not paying the price tags for Houston in this matchup. Like I'm not paying 5.3 for Altuve, 5 for Correa, 4.9 for Springer, even with their numbers against lefties.
Yeah, I don't really have any interest in them.
No. Mariners side of things here, Keuchel just man, kind of bummed me out here a little bit to start the year. But we saw this. We've seen this Keuchel before where he goes through these stretches and then starts to figure things out again. I'm willing to just wait until that happens.
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering if it has something to do with like cold weather because I think that Texas game was fairly cold. The Baltimore and the Minnesota games were fairly cold. Um, obviously this is indoors, but like it still could be kind of cold. Um, I don't know. I think I'm gonna wait and see with Keuchel. I don't like picking on the Mariners in general because they don't have a lot of strikeout upside. And now that Nelson Cruz is back, I definitely don't want to pick on him. I would be more inclined to roll out like a Mariner stack here, and that starts with Nelson Cruz, who one has hit Keuchel extremely well in his career, but has a decent amount of power against lefties. You have Gene Segura, Mitch Haniger, Seager, some of these other guys hit lefties pretty well. So I don't necessarily mind rolling out like a Mariner stack and taking advantage of this Keuchel that we've seen been really bad recently.
Yeah, I don't either. And you look at like Keuchel, like 8 walks over the last 2 starts, very uncharacteristic for him. Um, yeah, I definitely don't mind that either, especially with Cruz back. You got Haniger and like Segura, and obviously very small sample size, very small, but lefties have had actually a little bit of success against Keuchel so far this season.
Yeah, for sure. And I think with the walks, it just comes down to, like I said, with the cold, you're not able to grip, some of your breaking pitches very well. And he does rely on like a cut fastball when he's facing righties and a slider. And if you're not able to grip those pitches, then you're not going to be able to control them terribly well.
Yep. So, but yeah, I definitely like that Mariners call. And obviously, Vegas isn't going to be too fond of either offense, just given that these two pitchers have that name value and a decent pitcher's park.
Yeah, for sure.
So, home run calls. I think we're going to get weird today.
Are you going to get weird? Because I think I'm pretty straightforward with mine.
All right, fine. Don't get weird. I'll get weird.
I mean, Steve Pierce is going to be my chalk home run call. CJ Crone is going to be like my contrarian home run call.
Like it's I'm gonna go. I'm gonna. Can I do two contrarian today here?
Sure.
I'm gonna go Kyle Schwarber, and I'm gonna go Wilson Ramos.
Dig it.
So, digging deep. That's it for us. Head on over to fantasycafe.com for all our MLB content, NBA if you're still playing, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Good luck tonight.